Fucking dominate me, baby. Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we're going to be talking about She-Hulk. And the thing I was actually planning to do was make another looking back at myself video, but I kind of lazied out and I had a lot of stuff, I think, between the 2.5 weeks I was gone. But now I'm going to make a video, and I'm hoping sooner rather than later, that I'll make that looking back at myself video. But real quick, before we get into the video, I actually like to thank two of my commenters, Melancholy and Zero Shampoo King, who actually just changed his name to Shampoo King, and I didn't even notice. But in my last video, technically, without the other two spam videos, but they actually commented in my comments, and I actually appreciate what they said. They were actually really nice about it, and that gave me a little more confidence to keep this channel going. Just a lot more than most people would say. I don't really usually get comments much, but the fact that when I do get comments, it's either a treat or a freaking rap battle. And that's what I like to think about sometimes. Okay guys, now back to the video. We're going to be talking about the new show that just came out, She-Hulk. It's like one of them MCU shows where it is literally complete garbage. I could probably make a whole video about each one of them, like, garbage stains, because they're just, like, pitiful. But we're gonna go over She-Hulk because it's making the rounds, and why can't I get my devious lick on them? But we're gonna go into first the graphics of the show, and the fact that it looks like PlayStation 1 graphics in an HD remaster, like it's the GTA Trilogy Edition. Which, that game looked pitiful, just terrible, and some of the freaking body models were abnormal. Looked like one of them, like, early SFM movies or videos on YouTube. Yeah, but then you look at the character She-Hulk, and there's like this one frame that still gives me nightmares to a certain extent, where it's having her freaking mouth open. Apparently that's a roar, and I'm like, holy crap, is the VFX artist just not paid in general? Like, there's no budget one bit. Like, you look at the 2003 Ang Lee's Hulk, and you look at the Incredible Hulk, and those look fantastic. I know people usually say 2003's Hulk looked terrible, but I'm pretty sure they were blind when they watched it, or just really young and misremembered stuff. But I want to watch that movie again because I got back into Hulk like I think 2 months ago, no, not 2 months, 2 weeks ago, and I was like, you know what, that movie's pretty good. And again, that also shows how bad She-Hulk is. Because in 10 years down the line, people are going to be like, wow, She-Hulk looks terrible. And unlike the 2003 Hulk film, no one's going to defend She-Hulk's graphics. It's going to look terrible. They're like, okay. Like, I remember hearing in this one video where they could have just pulled a Lou Ferrigno and just got some extra muscular woman painted green to be She-Hulk, but MCU's weird about it, so they cut budget where they shouldn't be cutting it, you know, like in the stories, the casting, you know, because Mark Ruffalo isn't the Hulk. He's more just like there. We don't call him Professor Hulk. We call him Big Green Mark Ruffalo, because that is not Professor Hulk. And so far from the very, very short research I did on She-Hulk, I understand like most of the first episode somewhat. So the episode starts with She-Hulk. I forgot her actual character's name. Let's call her Rebecca. So Rebecca's like doing a reinterpretation of what she's going to say in the courtroom, and she's got two colleagues there. She got her Yas Queen supporter, and then you got the guy who actually has a head on his shoulders, and they get him out because, you know, he's actually going, you know, that's not going to make you look professional, right? It's going to make your verdict a little guilty. And then her freaking Yas Queen partner's like, hey, get out of the room real quick. We got to actually, like, discuss, you got to, like, pander, butt pat to these people. And I didn't actually watch the show. This is basically from the few videos I watched about She-Hulk. I kind of want to see how episode 2 comes out and see how reamed it's going to get. I don't think it's going to be canceled because Disney's a little off by that. And then later in the episode, there's a flashback somehow, and then She-Hulk and freaking Mark Ruffalo are in the car. And Rebecca is like talking about Captain America in very derogative ways, where that would actually be very offensive. But they're talking about that. Somehow a spaceship from Power Rangers shows up, and literally her woman driving skills like, oh crap, I gotta go down a ditch and not off like flat land and fight it. So then she gets to a car wreck like every woman I know, and then she has to pull Mark Ruffalo out of the wreckage, and Rebecca gets his blood in her somehow. I'm like, you barely look injured. You look like you just drew red lines on you with like Sharpie. And so she ends up getting the, I guess, apparently the Hulk virus. Somehow this show made T-Virus more accurate than the Resident Evil Netflix adaptation, which is disgusting. And then after a bit, I think it goes back to modern day. This is basically a very, very loose interpretation of how I saw the first episode. Then she goes to Mark Ruffalo, and he teaches her how to be the Hulk, and they talk about it. No. I think I freaking skipped the part just thinking about it. And yeah, after she gets to a wreck, she goes to this bar, and a bunch of women who you would expect to beat the crap out of her ended up giving her clothes and stuff. And I'm like, holy crap, is this half Goodwill, half bar? And so she washed her face off, and apparently she looks like she never got in a car wreck by the end of it. She walks over, and then your stereotypical what SJWs think dudes are. They just walk up and go, hey, you need a ride home? And then Rebecca hulks out because she doesn't know what manners are. And then freaking Mark Ruffalo's Hulk actually did some heroic and actually freaking tackled her. Like, hey, Rebecca, calm down. You're about to kill people. And that's not what the Hulk does in the MCU. But to the fact of that, it also, what Riley's always talking about is like the training sequence. They go on some forbidden island somewhere, and she asks Mark Ruffalo, hey, can you train me on how to be the Hulk? But the show, I don't think, really said that. They're just, like, moving her along thinking she needs training, but her character's like, I'm better than you anyways. And, sorry guys, a little brain fart there. So then they start training. I think at first they start doing these, rock throwing things where Mark gives her the first throw, and he's like, I want to see what you can do. She throws it. It's pretty short distance. It's maybe 2 inches. It's like someone trying to throw a paper plane that isn't like proper at all. And then he throws it halfway across. She throws it even further, and he throws it to the freaking moon. And then basically she yabs at him for something she just did. I'm like, you're the one showing off, Rebecca. I don't think you got any room to go, oh, you're the one showing off, Mark. And the show goes with a double standard immediately, which sucks, and then they go to her next training, which is yoga. I'm pretty sure the Hulk is so bulky he can't even do yoga. He's athletic, but he's not that freaking stringy. But she does it because she's a woman and blah, blah, blah. You know how the show goes. And then they go to the third training montage. Actually, I kind of forgot what that was. But then they go to this one, they go inside his little hut, and he's like, you can drink as much alcohol you want without the buzz. And I'm like, what are freaking alcoholics drink? What are alcoholics drinking alcohol for? Like, they're supposed to do it so the pain goes away. But no, apparently that, I guess that it tastes so good, they're just gonna go, I'm gonna drink it anyways. But, and then they go to a little mat, and then he sits there, and she sits there, and he's like, you need to learn to control your anger, you know, because you almost killed like 3 guys. And then she's like, I can control my anger better than you. And then she goes in this little rant, which doesn't even make sense because it's always women who worry about catcalling the most that pretty much no dudes looking in their direction. They're looking away. Like, their heads are darting the other way. But yeah, she's like going, I'm tired of being catcalled. I'm tired of, pulls out a deck of cards. Glass ceiling warfare, too. And then he's just sitting there and taking it. I'm like, dude, the Hulk is literally in a worse predicament than she is. Because I don't know much about the She-Hulk in the comics or as a character at all, but she doesn't really have trauma at all. Because freaking Hulk is basically another personality. It's not like She-Hulk where they're both one person, they could just do whatever. Hulk basically has a lot of personalities. Maybe like, I'm assuming 12, I don't know the whole thing, but there's a lot of them. And it's actually due to the fact that Bruce Banner, when he was a child, was basically abused by his father. His mother was pretty much freaking spineless to it, and then eventually she's like, I'm gonna go move out, and then he freaking stabbed the crap out of her right in front of him, and he just has to live with that. I think he was even taught to bottle up his emotions. And you think about it, and I'm like, yeah, that's way more of a reason to need to control your anger. And when the Hulk is like, yeah, mad, it's actually for traumatic reasons. Yeah, that point didn't make any sense. But the fact is, he went through a lot more than she did, and she made the dumbest excuses I could have heard. Why don't you give her some actual depth? Like, change the character just a smidge for the show. just actually make it where her points don't make her sound like either she's sheltered, brain dead, retarded, or she just slipped and hit her head on the way out the door. But yeah, this show was just kind of weird about it. And then after that, they get into a fight somehow, and I'm thinking, as the Hulk, even if it's Mark Ruffalo, he'd still beat the crap out of her. But I guess she somehow won, but I barely even saw much of the footage. She threw 3 punches and he pushed her over. So she gets up, gets in a car. He jumps in front, but the Hulk is usually supposed to throw a car with his freaking pinky. But she somehow runs the Hulk over and then pushes him into a freaking rock wall. And I'm like, who is this? The Hulk or an obese Shrek? It just doesn't make sense. And then I guess she drives off and has a wonderful time, and then I don't know how much time's passed in the episode, but the fact that she then goes to court, and yeah, you won't believe this one bit. She goes to court and she's defending someone, and all of a sudden a character I have no clue who it is because I barely saw any footage, and I did not want to look up her name because I feel like it's going to be either an extremely obscure character or a character that makes no sense. But she shows up for whatever reason. Maybe that was her freaking son getting prosecuted. And she starts throwing stuff around. And I'm like, dude, a courtroom is small. How in the world is she not hitting people? But She-Hulk, or Rebecca, looks at her friend and goes, hey, I don't think I can save the people. I don't want my shoes to get damaged. I'm like, you could buy new shoes. You have a job. And her dumb reason for not, saving people is because, like, I don't know if my clothes will still fit after I Hulk had, And I'm like, are you on dope? And so she eventually becomes She-Hulk, I guess, through the power of friendship. And then she gets up, catches something because the editing is like $5 and made in a Korean sweatshop. And she puts the thing down, I think. And then she punches the villain once. She's out cold, and apparently her freaking butthole split like it was a freaking rough cut of a porno. And she's defeated, arrested, and then she goes back to being Rebecca. She puts her clothes back on, and she goes, how is it? And then the judge is like, not guilty. I guess she does her little victory pose like it's the end of an 80s movie, but that's kind of it. She-Hulk episode 1 and the whole show is going to be complete butt cheeks. And the fact I actually saw this one picture of Abomination in a t-shirt, that actually surprisingly scarred me. That one is just abnormal for how it is. But that was She-Hulk, and this is probably going to be a semi-long video. But I hope everybody enjoyed.